if you want to go, let's say, from San Francisco to LA, and you have the best car, you drive perfectly, but you're going north instead of south, it doesn't matter how efficient you are in driving, right? You're going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So anytime you invest in figuring out what the direction should be, it's time incredibly well spent.
Welcome back to the Exploring Podcast. My name is Teja, and thanks to each and every single one of you who come back every time to learn, to execute, and to exploit for a better purpose. Now, I'm so grateful today to have you all together and also about to explore and uncover an amazing journey behind AI Academy and the popular book Zero to AI and how AI Academy is actually making AI democratic, right? So today's guest is an AI coach, an author, and a public speaker, and an incredible instructor at AI for Humans, Gianluca Mauro. Before we move ahead, a huge shout out to Talk Python Training for sponsoring this episode. Exploiting is all about leveling up your career in the tech space. Learning a bit of Python will allow you to take your expertise and 10x it with automation, APIs, and even AI. The best place on internet to learn Python is our Talk Python Training. Visit talkpython.fm/exploiting to find your next level. Now, onto the ad-free show. Gianluca is an artificial intelligence coach turned people at €1 billion companies into AI leaders. He's the founder of AI Academy, a company specialized in training, coaching, and strategic consulting on AI. He has been working in AI education for over 4 years with various entrepreneurs, students, managers, and executives at organizations all over Europe. He's also an author of the book Zero to AI together with Nicolo, a non-technical hype-free guide to help people without a technical background understand the use of AI in their jobs. On top of all of that, Gianluca's mission is to make AI more democratic and empower people to use it in their jobs. And I can't wait anymore to start exploring with Gianluca Mauro. And I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name moving forward anyhow. Thank you so much for joining us, Gianluca. I'm super excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Teja. It's a pleasure.
So, I mean, it's really an honor to have you here, and also most of the time. So, when I'm actually gone through all of your videos, all the content that you've been creating on Instagram, LinkedIn, and everywhere, so the one common thing that I found is your eternal kind of a knowledge that you've been sharing a lot of things. And another thing that I found common is that your maroon color t-shirt. So why is it why is it so important for you to be only in a single color, not the other colors?
I really like that t-shirt. I think that's the main reason. I just really like that. I like the color. I like how it fits. I like how it feels. And I think it was kind of by chance, like Mark Zuckerberg always wear the same clothes. Steve Jobs was always wearing the same clothes. That's not the reason why I decided to always wear the red t-shirt. It's just that I liked it a lot, and I started wearing it in a bunch of videos, and then I saw that my Instagram feed looked really nice because I always had the same t-shirt, and now I'm trying to wear always the same. I don't know what I'm gonna do if for some reason I'm gonna lose it or it doesn't fit anymore. I think I'm gonna cry probably and try to find exactly a t-shirt looks like that.
But I want to know, do you have only one single t-shirt, or you have a couple
No, I have just one with that color. I have some that are similar, but one is the one, And and so basically I'm using it just for my videos. I never use it to go out, which is a shame, but it's kind of my brand now, that maroon color.
Yeah. And it literally turned into the whole website theme color. When you go for AI Academy website, you find a kind of a similar color having your t-shirt and also the same thing with the same way, right? So it was kind of fascinating to see you be on the whole t-shirt color turn up into a brand color.
Yes,
so
basically.
that's cool. That's amazing. And it's kind of fun as well when you're ready to make a recording for the next day, you make sure ready for the t-shirt to be dried as well.
Exactly. The problem is when I'm traveling, because if I travel, I need to remember to bring that t-shirt,
Absolutely. Oh my God. Okay, cool. I mean, it's kind of hard to find the same fit at the next store as well. So you have to carry your own urn. So that's kind of tough thing, But it's always fun. Yeah. So the thing is, I genuinely love to grow, love to listen, and love to share the exploiting actions of the incredible people like, business leaders and the technical leaders. So you are the one who are actually striving to make AI democratic to whole people around the world who may be a business leader, or who may be a professional, right? They're all different strategies, but all your intention is to make them get into AI and make them build a career on it or grow their business to the next level. Right? But I want to know, like, what is that exploiting situation in your life that made you to turn into this part of your life?
Yes.
Maybe becoming the founder of AI Academy and or writing zero to AI or instructing AI for humans. Like, what is that situation made you to be on at this?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and the story is kind of crazy because I am not by background. I'm not a computer scientist. I studied energy engineering in Rome, and I had no idea about what artificial intelligence was. Then one day, I was so lucky to win a scholarship that is called Fulbright BEST. It stands for Business Exchange Student Training.
Cool.
And so I moved to Silicon Valley. This was a little bit more than 5 years ago. I went there and I met, by the way, my co-founder, Nicolò Baligi. We won the same scholarship, and so we just met in San Francisco. And we're like, hey,
Cool.
we're going to live together for 6 months. Cool, nice to meet you. And when I was there, Silicon Valley, it was one of these moments where you feel that something is changing. You could breathe change in the air. There were a lot of events for free where people were just going and talking about artificial intelligence. The people that were talking were top executives at Google or Apple or Facebook. And I remember that I was going to Stanford quite often just to hear talks. And one day there was a talk from Peter Norvig. Peter Norvig is the head of research at Google Brain.
Yeah.
And I just remember this guy talked for an hour about how Google Translate changed completely when they went from traditional software to artificial intelligence, so to machine learning algorithms. And I just remember that my feeling was, you have to put that into context, okay? This was an Italian guy who studied engineering in Italy and in Belgium, but anyway, in Europe. Then moves to Silicon Valley, so to the birthplace of technology, and starts listening to all this insane stuff. And the goal of my scholarship was to go to Silicon Valley and then come back and try to bring some of that knowledge back to Italy. And I really felt that mission because I realized that everything that I've learned at university was great, but I felt like I had some weapons, like some little water guns, and these guys had machine guns and bazookas, and grenades. Like the weapons they had to build tools, to build technology, which is so much more powerful than what I had learned in Italy. And I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to go back to Italy and show people what I've seen, make people understand that there's a different way of doing things that is much more powerful than what maybe they have seen. And so I decided to start AI Academy together with Nicolò, my Fulbright fellow and co-founder, and now one of my best friends as well. And so that was what pushed me. Just that I realized that there was this huge opportunity that people were missing out on, and I didn't want that to happen. I was lucky to go there at that time. I wanted to give that opportunity also to other people that maybe don't have the opportunity to fly to Silicon Valley for 6 months, So that was the idea. That was the mission.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a kind of a situations in your life, maybe empowered and made you to think twice or thrice or any number of times, but actually made you to, deviate into another thing where you belongs to another field and you directly dive into a different thing and you built a complete career on it, right? That's incredible. Like we usually find a very handful of people who can be connected so quick, right? And you're one of them among that. But I want to know, like, when we have such kind of a situation which transformed our thinking, transformed our brains about one thing, we may look for building career on it, right? When I say building career on it, it can be in two ways, whether you go for job on that field or whether you build a company on it, right? Yeah. But in this case, you choose it to make a company that could actually help a lot of billions of people out there, right? Yeah. And you didn't choose to make a job on it. Right? Yeah. So why is that? Why is that so much, whether you didn't choose to go for a job, but you choose to build a company?
Yeah, it just happened basically. Because when I moved back to Italy, first of all, I still need to finish my university. I missed 2 exams to get my master's degree, and I wanted to get that done. But I was also really bored of studying energy engineering. It just felt like a shame to give up on that at 2 exams from the end. So I kept studying, but I wanted to do more AI related things. So I started to do small workshops where I would just ask, sell some tickets, put a bunch of people in a room and teach them the basics of artificial intelligence. And what happened was that people started to ask me for more because they were like, hey, this thing you just taught me is really cool. Can you help me build some AI stuff?
Cool.
And I was like, well, wow. Sure. Yeah. I think I can help you. And then I was working together with my co-founder. And that's also something very important. So AI is not easy to build, AI algorithms. It's not something you can, in a few months just become a data scientist. What I've been really lucky with was that while all these things were happening, while people were starting to ask me for my help, I was studying a lot. And my co-founder, Nicolò, he was already an expert on this technology. He was helping me to, get up to speed. So I had to imagine these two things going at the same time. One is me keep on getting better, keep on learning, keep on making experience. And the other thing is people starting to ask me for my help, for my support. And then things just kind of happened. At some point, I realized that I just had to build a company because I had just too much work. There were too many people that wanted my help, Yeah. And I think there's one example that it's pretty interesting, and I still think it's pretty crazy. One of the things I was doing, I was trying to build projects, imagining that I was working for someone, okay? When still I had no clients. So I will go online and think, okay, let's suppose that I have an energy company, because remember, I was an energy engineer, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of comfortable for me to work in the intersection between energy and artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, let's imagine that I have an energy company that asks me to do this thing. How will they do it? And then I will search for data sets online and try to build a project, like if I was hired by someone.
Yeah.
And I also really liked communicating. So one day I wrote a blog post where I told the story of how I tried to make the same algorithm that a company called Power had built. That company was acquired by Oracle for $530 million.
Cool.
And then I wrote a blog post saying I reverse engineered a $500 million company in a week. Here's the full story.
I noticed that, yeah.
And that blog post became crazy viral. There was one day when I woke up and my email was like flooded with people that were offering me jobs. And I think two anecdotes are pretty fun. One was that a guy working for Square in Silicon Valley called me and he said, hey, yeah, I showed your article to Jack and he also really liked it. And I was like, Jack? And I realized that Jack is Jack Dorsey. The founder of Twitter.
Cool.
Because he's also the founder of Square. So Jack Dorsey read my blog post. Jesus Christ, it was crazy. But the second cool thing is one of these companies that reached out to me was an energy company. And I was talking to their head of data science and I told him, hey, listen, I want to help you, but you need to know that I'm not yet an AI expert. This was really the beginning. It was 4 years ago. And I just told him, I was very honest with him. And he just said, hey, don't worry, you bring the energy expertise because you're a master degree in energy engineering. I'm going to teach you what you miss. I just want to have your creativity. And so he started paying me. Cool. I think a third of what he would pay a data scientist in Silicon Valley. So for him it was okay. But I learned so much. And so I want people to I want your audience to think about these two things that are going in the same direction. Me keep on learning with a little bit of luck as well. Because again, it was so lucky to have this guy coaching me. I was so lucky to know Nicolò, my co-founder, who was already super skilled. And at the same time, this other track of people getting interested in it and asking me for help. And at some point, I just looked at myself in the mirror and was like, hey, I think I need to start a company because just people want me to help them. And that just makes sense.
Yeah.
That was a fun journey, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it literally blew my mind the way you expressed that the journey. You literally took me into your position, writing the blog post and making you in the field that you have been doing, even you're not working for someone else, right? So the one thing that literally fascinated me now is that you thought you're working for someone and you did the project that you really want to, right? Which actually keeps you in dedication, which actually keeps you in a specific time frame and in a specific discipline that you could actually come up with a product, right? That's literally amazing. And I would say everyone who is listening to actually note this point down from Gianluca. So this is literally incredible. You can actually think that you've been working for someone and this project needs to be in production and you can be working on the things where fully fledged, total discipline, and then you can come up with a product, right? That's literally incredible. But when you mentioned about reverse engineering about something existing, and then you actually try to let others understand the inner parts of it, right?
Yes.
But why was the reverse engineering came into your thoughts? Like why reverse engineering is so much important in such cases?
Well, it's because I was looking at people that used AI with success, right? And so this company was crazy successful because they You have to think about the money that they made. For sure, that's great. They made $530 million with the sales to Oracle. That's amazing. But also the kind of business value that they created, they made people save 10% of their energy bill.
Cool.
If you put that over the whole United States, it's a lot of value that they created. And so I thought, well, these guys did something amazing. Let's see if I can try to copy them, right? Instead of coming up with my own ideas, I was still, again, it was the beginning of my AI journey. So what I wanted to do was just try to copy the best people at the job. And that just seemed like something that made sense to try to do this reverse engineering thing. There was also another point, which is that I needed, of course, I wasn't working for a company again, so I didn't have, access to company data, for instance. So I was lucky because I was able to find some data set that was open source that I thought was probably similar to what this company was using. So I had to work with what I had. I knew this company. I could understand the business value of the project because I was an energy engineer. So I am an energy engineer. And I had some data that just felt similar. So I thought, well, I understand the product. The product is pretty cool. I mean, it makes a lot of value. I have a similar data set. Why don't I try to make this? And at that time, honestly, it was one of my most productive periods of my life. I was unemployed. I had finished university. I was living with my mom and dad. I was basically spending all my days studying or trying to build projects or walking my dog. And it was just every idea that I had the time to pursue it. Of course, I was lucky to have a family that could, not kick me out of home and just keep me there until I wanted. So I was lucky also in that. But I just had the time to think about all these different ideas. And when I had this idea, I just went for it. I made so many more, by the way. I think this is something important also for people. This is not the only project I've done. I've done other ones and I wrote blog posts about them and no one cared. No one listened, and that's fine. I mean, I didn't write this blog post or build these projects because I wanted Jack Dorsey to read them, I made them because I was passionate about it and I wanted to learn and I wanted to practice. And then one of them, this one that I told you, just went crazy viral. I think it was read by more than 100,000 people. It was insane. So it was just about having ideas, pursuing them, and then seeing what sticks.
Absolutely. I mean, that retrospective thinking, right? You thought about something and you wanted to see it in a different dimension than how usually people see, right? People usually find in a specific perspective, but letting others to see in a different dimension can actually make them to understand it more deeper, more intentional, right? So that's what you've been doing there. And that's an amazing point that may be one of the factors that become the viral thing on the medium, right? So that's crazy. Yeah. And also when you mentioned about being unemployed in the home for quite a bit of time, but I want to know, this is going to be scary for every single person in the world, right? So being unemployed and then looking for the employment and then looking for self-employment, right? It's kind of different. You be unemployed and you look for becoming employed and you look for becoming self-employed, right? So, and you choose to become self-employed. Right. Yep. So then how was those transition? Because a home and you don't know what to do, and then it comes a lot of things and you have a lot of thoughts in your brain without execution, and you try to execute and you feel that you are kind of, afraid of doing something. So what was your suggestion for someone out there who is actually unemployed and looking to become self-employed?
Yeah, it's really hard, to be honest. I see a lot of people who really struggle with it. I was extremely lucky for a bunch of reasons. One of them was that I had a home, right? I had a family that could just keep me there without any problem. So I knew that if I didn't make money for 6 months or for a year, I mean, I was dead broke. I was not making any money at all. But I was staying at home and not going out to have dinner and just live with my parents, right? So this is something I have to say, because this doesn't apply to everyone. If someone has a more pressing financial situation, it's a whole different story, of course.
Yeah.
But to me, the switch of deciding that being self-employed was going to be my decision and my way of living, it became a little bit easier when I found my first kind of long-term contract. So when I found the first company that was going to pay me to work full-time for a few months, I think the first contract we made was for 6 or 9 months or something like this. that was the moment when I started having some income in, right? And so I knew, okay, for the next 6 or 9 months, I can survive. So I rented a house, I moved out from my parents, and I just started getting into that world. And I never really thought that much about, oh my God, what I'm gonna do after this next 6 months? What if I don't find any other job? I focused a lot on trying to give all the value I could to these companies, to the best job I could possibly do.
Yeah.
And guess what happened? After 6 months, they say, hey, we want other 6 months. And after 6 months, they said, hey, we want other 6 months, I had to tell them to stop because I wanted to do other things. So in that case, I just had to trust the fact that my work was going to be well received by these guys. And that actually happened. Have I been lucky? Yes, for sure I had a few, some luck. But what I want people to focus on is if you work to get a paycheck, you lose focus on what's the actual thing that is going to bring you work, which is delivering amazing results to your clients. And another thing that I want to add is my first job I got it because of my network. I got it because I had friends. I talked to people and I kept, talking to people on LinkedIn. And then I saw that one of the founders of a company I knew just said, hey, we're looking for someone that can support this client. So never underestimate the importance of relationships. Nurture relationships. If you can help someone do it, it's gonna come back.
Yeah.
You're always gonna find someone else who comes back to you with a job. I literally never reached out like cold emails to anyone. I always got word of mouth because people are happy to work with me because I try to deliver value. So you see how the wheel turns? You deliver value, people are happy to work with you, they give you more jobs and they refer you to their friends. And then you give value to their friends who refer you to their friends, and then you give value to the friends of your friends, etc., etc., etc. And then you create this positive loop that just brings so much value, happiness, and if you care about it, money as well. Because in the end, we're talking about working, right? So I think there's a few things that need to fall into place to be self-employed, but the starting place must always be deliver value to people and be a nice guy because people want to work with nice guys or nice girls.
Absolutely.
So be nice, be someone that people want to have around,
Yeah.
And that's going to pay off. At least it did for me. And I think it works for a lot of other people. I've seen a lot of people doing kind of similar paths than mine and it kind of works.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's beautifully said. I mean, the way you deliver the things, it actually felt me in the illusion about, you do good and you get the good, and you be the good and you get the good, right? It's kind of, that is a really, really practical things in the real life. Kind of we call
Exactly.
like a karma, right? Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you can see there's a metaphysical karma. You can see it that way. And by all means, if you believe in it, I do believe in it. If you do believe in it, go ahead. But it's also extremely practical. It's just very practical. If you hire me to do something and I do it really well, you're going to hire me again. I mean, it just makes sense, right? And guess what? If they call you to do something, like I'm still working with the company that gave me the first job, but now I get paid 4 times as much as I was paying in the beginning because I just delivered so much more value to them that now they know that my work has a value that is much higher than what they were giving me 5 years ago. But of course, I mean, I improved. I proved myself as well. I became a better data scientist, a better entrepreneur, better at teaching, better at everything. They see that and they pay for it. Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, it's like, why do you buy the iPhone? Because probably you had another iPhone before, you were happy about it, right?
Yeah.
The same way, if you deliver good value to companies, they're going to give you value back. It's so practical. It's really... There's no, strange energy, karma, law of attraction stuff around. Maybe there is, but it's mostly really practical stuff.
Yeah, totally. And also when you mentioned about the kind of a thing, you got to be taking the good and giving the good back. It's like, before that, we have to be looking at the good things, right? Our eyes need to be so conscious about seeing at the good things. So when you mentioned about an example of Apple product, because we specifically look at the good parts of the mobile, we specifically look about the feel that you get it when you hand it over, and when you, in the same way for the work, when you actually look for the good parts, because when we look for the bad parts, you kind of go for a little bit bad about it, right? Because why am I saying this here? Because it's moreover when we wanted to look good at others, because we expect good, it's only about when we see good in others. Right?
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, that's kind of a way that also works with really practical, and that's what I found in you as well. Super. I mean, that's cool. Great. And also, you've been into Silicon Valley for quite a long time, being there with your friend. So for someone out there who is actually wishing to be there, so there is a kind of an engineer who really wanted to get into Silicon Valley and to learn there. So what do you suggest for them? Like, how did they can actually get into there?
Well, unfortunately, it's getting harder and harder because of visa regulations, right?
Yeah.
That's the main problem, to be honest. Because what I realized is that talents are a little bit everywhere, right? There are crazy talents in Silicon Valley. There are insane talents in Europe, insane talents in India.
Yeah.
Talent, it's distributed equally. Opportunities are not, unfortunately. So, I mean, you can do literally the same job for a certain amount of money in India and then do the same job for 5 times much in Silicon Valley. Or, I mean, I picked India, but I could pick Italy as well. Silicon Valley is just completely different. And it's also, again, I don't want to talk just about the salary. I make this example because it's what a lot of people, resonates with a lot of people, but also think about the impact. I mean, working for someone like Google, it means that you're surrounded by very experienced people.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn a lot. You're going to have a good time. So how can you get there? Well, I think my co-founder Nicolò is the best person I know at getting jobs in Silicon Valley because he worked for a few crazy companies. The last one is Apple, and he's working for Apple right now. So the way he did it, it's honestly, you need to think of your career as, have you ever played one of these card games or board games where you need to gain a power, you have a card, then you use the card, and then you use the card to win another card. It's more or less the same thing. So you have to try to build your cards that you can play with recruiters.
Cool.
So in my case, in the beginning, think about this. What was my first job? My first job was doing data science in the energy field because I had a pretty strong card that was my master degree in energy engineering. Then I've done this first job, and suddenly I had another card. I could tell people, hey, I built a data science project with a Silicon Valley company.
Yeah.
And then I could go to other people and say, hey, I'm an energy engineer. That's my first card. I built a project freelancing for a Silicon Valley company. I'm pretty cool, right? So you can give me another job. And then I got another card, which was, hey, I built this project for a big pharmaceutical company. And I could go to another company with all these little cards. So it's very important for you to be super aware of what your cards are. What are your cards? Are you someone who maybe has some experience in, let's say, in healthcare? Maybe maybe you're a doctor who's passionate about data science, or maybe let's say you study marketing. Okay, let's suppose you study marketing. It's a pretty easy example. A lot of people are into marketing and business. Okay, and you also like data science, and you're starting to get into data science. Your cards are data science, a little bit. Maybe you're not so strong because you don't have any, maybe you never had a job in data science, but you have this other card that is marketing. So where can you play these two cards? Look at it that way. My co-founder Nico, if you see his career, he basically did every little step to try to gain some card that he could use with his next employer.
Yeah.
And he went from being an intern at a company that was making drones in Silicon Valley, that then failed, by the way, to get another job in Singapore to build self-driving cars, which helped him get a job in Silicon Valley to build self-driving cars, which helped him get a job. I think he got job proposals from Apple, from Oculus, from Apple. Then he went with Google. Everyone basically tried to give him a job because he had all the right cards, right? And once you understand that it's all about the kind of leverage you have, and you develop yourself a strategy to do that, then your career starts to open up. Don't think about the end point. Think about what cards you need to get to the end point and what kind of steps you could do. Like Nico, my co-founder, he changed job, I think, every 1 year and a half, 2 years, just when he had enough cards, let's say, to play his next move. That's how you should see it. It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's not the end point. Don't focus that much on where you want to end, because also a very important thing, you don't really know if you want to work for Apple or Google, Facebook. Maybe you get the job of your life, you get there, you hate it. It could be.
Yeah.
It could totally be. So think about how to build a journey that brings you to where you think you want to be, maybe, but also gives you the flexibility of moving around once you gain all these cards that you can play. It's a little bit like, again, playing a card game. If you have some value, if you have some cards, you just need to know how to play them well.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a kind of a very kind of cute story of career cards, and it's really fascinating, But, I think there are a lot of people out there who has different cards. They have various cards in various fields.
Yeah.
But I think they need to be really conscious about having those cards in a specific way, as you said.
Yes.
Right? But looking in at the perspective of students, like who are early people who are getting into careers, who are getting into industry and all of them. So, but for their challenges, for them, the challenging thing is choosing and finding such cards, right?
Yes.
They need to choose the cards. But I usually get this question a lot of times. People usually say, I don't know what I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
I don't know what to choose, right? So it actually means they are unaware of what card to pick, what career card they need to choose. So what is your perspective on it? What would be your words of advice for them?
Well, first of all, I really empathize with this. So you have to think, when I was 18 years old, I didn't know if I wanted to study engineering or become a guitar player. I was so passionate about guitar. I wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah.
And then I decided to be an engineer. And then I hated engineering. I really hated studying engineering. I thought it was going to be fun. It wasn't. Then I went to study in Belgium and I thought I wanted to be a startup guy. And then I moved to Silicon Valley. I realized I didn't want to be a startup guy. I wanted to do data science. Then I came back to Europe and decided that I was going to do consulting. And now I'm focused 100% on teaching. So as you can see, I really empathize with this kind of, going around and just changing your path as you go. How can you do this? Well, you need to try stuff. You just need to try. And it sounds easy, just try, right? But I think the most important thing is to have a very open mind. So if you are presented with an opportunity, which seems interesting, it seems like it could give you something, go for it and have the courage of looking inside yourself and thinking whether that's for you or not. Because it may be for you, it may not be for you, and then play your next step. So it's like a little bit like, it's like playing cards. You start with a strategy, and then if you see that the strategy is working because it's making you happy, then keep going. If you see that this is not working, okay, look at everything you've done and then see how you can change. I know people that changed career when they were 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My father is an example. My father decided to start his own company 6 years ago. He's 62 now.
Wow.
You can do it at any point, it's really about how you can maximize your chances of finding your path. And that's also something very important. So if you really don't have any clue about what you want to do, then you should maximize your opportunity to find that out. So try something that exposes you to as many different things as possible. That could be, for instance, doing consulting.
Yeah.
Because if you do consulting, then you end up working on, maybe 5 projects in 3 months, And you see a lot of different companies and you learn. And then it helps you find out what you want to do. That could be an idea. Or maybe travel, if you can. Go somewhere else in the world and try to be exposed. And talk to people.
Yeah.
Something really important that it gave me a lot was to try to reach out to people that I thought had a career they liked, and just email them or write them on LinkedIn and be like, hey, how's your job? I would like to become an AI researcher as well. What do you do when you wake up? You wake up, go to work, and how does it work? People usually answer you because, why not? If you ask me, hey, how is your job? I'm going to be happy to tell you if that can help you, right? Actually, investing a lot of my time in trying to make people understand what does it mean to work in AI. So That's also another option. If you don't have the opportunity
can you just share that? Can you just share that? How would be your day as being kind of a person what you're now?
Sure, I can do that. So right now I'm in this phase where I'm trying to shift from education and consulting to just education. So I decided to split my day in 2, basically. In the morning, I build my education business, let's say. So usually I wake up, I do my stretching, I drink lots of water, have breakfast, then turn off the computer and start working on the education side, which could be editing, posting videos on Instagram, shooting videos for Instagram, shooting stuff for LinkedIn, or in the past few months, I launched some courses, some online courses. AI for Humans is one, which is a free course for everyone to understand what is AI, and then two professional courses that are called Applied AI for Professional and Design and Build AI projects. So in the morning, I work on this stuff, okay? Then I have lunch, and then my consulting life starts. So usually at 2, I have Skype calls with clients where I follow what they're doing. I hear how the project is going. I give them directions to try to, steer their projects in a better direction. So, and these, I had to consciously do that because I realized that consulting was taking so much of my time.
Yeah.
And my educational activities were kind of lagging behind, but I wanted to invest in that. So I literally blocked all my mornings on my calendar. If you try to book a meeting with me, there's no space in the morning because that's my educational stuff. That's where I focus on this new thing. And then, I am still finding out my own journey. Maybe in January, I'm going to decide that this consulting thing, I'm super bored of it and I want to do education the whole day. Probably it's going to happen, or maybe the other way around. Maybe I decide to stop teaching. I don't think that's going to happen because I'm 100% sure that's what I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
I need to see what to do with the consulting side. But again, my life is also changing. I don't feel like I reached I'm 29. I'm going to change all that 100 times. But it's important to be aware of what makes you happy. Be aware of where you want to go.
Yeah.
Right now, it doesn't have to be, I like to say you have to write it with a pencil, not with a pen. You can delete it if you want, You can always change.
Yeah.
But it's important to be aware right now, today, where do I want to go? Where should I focus my energies? What makes me happy? Right now it's education and still consulting. And so that's why I split my day in 2. In 6 months, we'll see where we go,
Oh my God. That's really, really beautifully said. Delivering in such a way, it's very rare people finding, putting the energy what they really love and living the life that they love is one of the greatest gifts that we ever got, right? But I find very few people in the world who is doing that. And glad to meet you, you're doing the things that you're actually, fond of and you're really passionate about, and where you find your love on the work and you make it consistent and making it forward and further and further, right?
Yeah.
But, and again, when you mentioned about putting the things in a specific way, we usually overestimate multitasking and underestimate single tasking, right?
Yeah.
And I got to know it from you when you're being so multitasking with different works and you chunk it down into another thing for personal growth. So the morning you mentioned about is for the learning something is moreover nothing but it's our personal growth.
Yeah.
You want to learn, you want to grow personally rather than consulting or education purpose. So why is that so? The personal growth is so much important for everyone here.
Well, I believe that the most important asset that you can have is self-awareness. You need to know who you are.
Yeah.
You need to know what drives you. You need to know what you're good at. You need to know what you want to do, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
I am absolutely not ashamed to say that I'm a huge fan of therapy. I see a therapist since a while that has helped me so much understand a little bit better who I am. And that has positive impacts on every single aspect of my life. From when I'm alone in a room, I feel better because I know myself. When I'm in relationships, whether that's friends or girlfriends or boyfriends, whatever you want, even your family, everything, And in my work as well, my clients are more happy because I have more self-awareness, because I know what I can do, I know what I cannot do, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So I think there's something that I learned in the last couple of years. We tend to focus a lot on our technical skills. How good is my algorithm? How good is my code and all this stuff? We tend to underestimate the value of knowing yourself better. The value of more self-awareness towards how you are built, how people are built. All these, people call them soft skills.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like soft skills that much because in the end of the day, we are humans. being good at being a human, it's so freaking important, right? I would say it's maybe more important than writing the best code in the world, because in the end of the day, you're a human and you're going to work with humans. So it's very important that you know what kind of human you are and how to, to work together with other humans, right? So if you want to invest time in improving your let's say human skills, that's how, I think that's a better way to call it, human skills rather than soft skills. Damn, the return on investment is huge. And so if you feel like that could help you, just try to allocate some time, block your calendar. From 9 to 10, I'm gonna, I don't know, read a book about psychology. I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna do yoga. I'm gonna, if you can see a therapist, do that. It's great. So working on your self-awareness, I think it's probably the single most important investment that I've done in the last few years. More than stock market, more than crypto, more than anything else, okay?
Yeah, specifically about knowing ourselves better, because the time when we spend specifically for that self-awareness, it's not like we learn a lot of things. It's about we learn more about ourselves, right?
Yes.
We learn more about our inner beliefs and the way we think and the way we act and the way we communicate and actually grow along with others. So when we know that, when we know about ourselves better, then we could actually be more better with others. So people will love us.
And that helps you build a better path. There's this blog post from Sam Altman, the CEO of Y Combinator. The blog post is called On Productivity. I recommend everyone to go read it.
Cool.
And the first thing they say is, it doesn't matter how efficient you are at going in one direction if it's the wrong direction. You could be super good at, let's say, learning AI. If becoming an AI researcher is not your path, you're optimizing for the wrong direction. It's like if you want to go, let's say, from San Francisco to LA, and you have the best car, you drive perfectly, but you're going north instead of south. It doesn't matter how efficient you are at driving, right? You're going the wrong direction. So anytime you invest in figuring out what the direction should be, it's time incredibly well spent.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about no matter how much speed you're going, but if you're in a wrong direction, it's nonetheless, it's waste of time for your energy and your efforts and your skills and everywhere, right? So
it doesn't work.
That's beautifully said. How about when you spoke about the interesting story about career cards, one of the most important career cards in your life, maybe it's Zero to AI book. Right. And you mentioned about something just like making AI democratic, right? So beautifully that you mentioned about making, the AI democratic to everyone. But what is your deep intention behind making AI democratic?
So the reason why I wanted to make AI democratic is because, and I want to go back to that image that I tried to share of me, this Italian engineer going to Silicon Valley, right? And being surrounded by all these insane knowledge, all these opportunities, all these people that really knew what the hell was going on and they were building the future, right? So when I saw that, I really wanted to have other people experience that as well, to get the same opportunities that I had. And again, it would be nice to make everyone fly to Silicon Valley to learn tech. In the same way, it would be nice to, have Silicon Valley people fly to Italy to learn about art, for instance, okay? So opportunities, again, are not spread in the same way. And then I thought, well, how can I try to make it easier for people to get the same knowledge that I had without having to fly to Silicon Valley? And I had different ways. One of them, my first way was doing workshops. But then I thought, well, I cannot fly everywhere in the world. I'm one human being, right? So how can I make scale this activity? And one solution that I found was writing this book, where, I just condensed in 230 pages, more or less, everything that I wish I knew about AI when I started studying it. And it was a hell of a job. It took 1 hour and a half of our lives, me and Nico. 1 year and a half. 1 hour and a half would be really fast to write 220 pages. 1 year and a half of our lives. It was insane. It really took a lot of time. We wanted to write the best book possible. But now everyone can just get this book and have the same kind of knowledge that I could get from people in Silicon Valley while talking to them and listening to their keynotes. So that was the reason why we did it, because we realized that if we wanted to give everyone the same opportunities that we had, writing a book just made so much sense. It will help us in our mission a lot. And I hope it's going to also help a lot of people understanding AI and finding out whether that's their journey, whether that's something that can really resonate with them and shape their career.
Absolutely. I mean, I highly recommend checking out the episode notes below. I'll give all the direct links there, so they can directly go and grab a copy very easily. And you can always see in every of the videos of Gianluca, you can actually find a bunch of copies with him. And I think you really love the book, and I really love the cover page. It's kind of distinct and kind of different comparing to all of the Manning books. Why is that so? Yeah.
Well, because a lot of Manning books are for developers, right?
Yeah.
This book is not for developers. I mean, it can be also for developers, but there's no code. It's a little bit more. It's less technical, and it's more on the general concepts of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And again, this is because of this mission of making AI more democratic.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have had the same effect if this was a book about code. We wanted it to be on general principles. So we told Manning, hey guys, I think this is a different book from what you usually make.
Yeah.
So it should have a different cover.
Cool.
And it should be a cover that, that it's happy and nice. And so we made it super, with this kind of very bright orange and this big title in the end, in the center. Again, we wanted there was a book that would get people attention because we wanted, again, to make it more democratic, right? So it had to be kind of happy and interesting and different from everything else that Manning was doing at the time.
Yeah, and it's only the one which is kind of very unique among all of the books of the Manning, like saying Zero to AI in a different style. But the very first time I saw the book, I didn't expect it's from Manning, very honestly.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a kind of a style they have. It's kind of different with a lot of other people on the picture.
Yes.
But it's kind of cool that you are the person, you are the people who had a unique style from the Manning specifically for the book.
I mean, we had to ask them a couple of times, but they understood the reason, and so they were very collaborative in trying to make the best book we could, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and it's very great to see the book is getting a lot of reviews and a lot of valuable comments about their actually inner words of how the book is actually is, and you all improving it a lot of times, and then how it goes. That's great. In the same way, when you think about AI Academy and humans, I mean AI for humans and for Zero to AI everywhere, it's more about making the business people build their existing actual business more higher, more levels and everything. And for the professional, it's about building their careers and making more intuition, right? That's the whole idea. But specifically looking into the business people, business leaders who want to grow their existing business with AI, I want to know, what are those challenging things that you face with most of the business leaders when you try reaching them or when you try explaining AI to them?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I feel like the challenges have evolved with time. In the beginning, there was also a lack of talents. There were not many people that could build these applications. Right now, there are lots of talents around, and there's lots of technology that helps you also build AI without having to use 200 data scientists, So technology and talents is not anymore, I think, the bottleneck. It's mostly about the awareness. I like to use this metaphor. AI, for me, is a tool. It's like a hammer or a saw or a screwdriver, okay? But imagine if you need to build a table and the only tool you know is duct tape. You're going to build a shitty table because you're going to build it using tape to just put the legs on the, But if I come to you and I show you that you can use a drill, that you can use a hammer, that you can use a screwdriver, well, then you're going to build a much better table. So right now, the biggest bottleneck is a lot of business leaders know just duct tape. They don't know all these other tools that could help them solve their problems much better, to give so much more value to their users and make them business grow. So my goal is to make these people see that there are these tools that they can use. I always tell them, I can help you find projects, but there's a big problem here. You know the problems and I know the tools.
Yeah.
The knowledge is in two different brains. So I think it's much easier if I put some of these tools in your brain rather than you put all your 20 years of experience in your industry in my brain.
Yeah.
So that's why I focus a lot on education, because I think that's the key. If people start understanding how these tools work, then they are going to find opportunities 100%. I've seen it happen over and over. So that's the main challenge that I see, making people more aware of the tools they can use and then actually give them the courage of using them and of trying to make this step towards using these different technologies.
And that's what the whole democracy defines for you, right? It actually letting them to get your tools and put them into execution, and that's where they're getting the democracy to actually use the knowledge and to grow their business,
Yeah.
right? And absolutely, that's gonna be really challenging for for you and your entire team, and But what are those common misconceptions business people usually have about AI and machine learning? Yeah, I know you've been dealing a lot of business people out there. So what are those common misconceptions they usually find, and how do you actually tackle them to break them down to the actual reality?
Yeah, so I think the main misconception is that AI is going to solve all their problems and that they're going to make money just because they're using AI. AI, again, it's a tool.
Yeah.
You don't build an amazing table because you have a hammer. You build an amazing table because you thought about how to use that tool in a creative way, in a useful way.
Yeah.
So that's the main misconception that they have. Sometimes they come to me, they're like, oh, wow, we can use, deep learning to do this. Cool, let's do it. And I always tell them, hey guys, the challenge is not to understand whether you can do it. The challenge is understand whether you should.
Yeah.
If you find something that has business value, you're at 90% of the job done. The rest 10% is just building it. Okay. So the first misconception that they have is that AI is going to solve all the problems. And the way I try to make them more aware of this is to, first of all, demystify AI a little bit, because a lot of people think AI is kind of like a magic wand, like you do a magic and some stuff
And
happens.
Terminator stuff again?
Yeah, exactly, this kind of stuff. And the second thing is to make them really think about why they want to do a project. How is it going to help us? How is it going to help your customers? How is it going to make people more happy, more healthy, more productive, whatever your business is trying to achieve, right? Yeah, it's all about strategy, and it's all about really being aware of where you want to go and why. That's the most important thing that I can do in my job. If I do that thing well, everything else comes easy.
Oh my God. I mean, that's so great. I mean, you mentioned it really cool way. And in the same way, like when you actually spread your whole wisdom and the knowledge and the whole purpose behind AI Academy to the entire world, you use specific mediums, the social mediums, like social platforms. You use Instagram, LinkedIn, and you create a lot of content with all of the things that you wanted to spread across. So, and it's very early that you're getting and making it so viral, getting them content to understand a lot of people out there, maybe for business or for professionals. But I want to know, like, if there is someone else along with you who is actually striving to become a person, a popular kind of getting the viral content go across the people, right? You want to create a content which could go viral, because that's where the whole people could understand the whole, the whole technology stuff, or how they can use the whole knowledge, right? So what would be your advice for someone who is actually getting into social media and spreading their content across, no matter technology? Like,
yeah, that's a very good question. I'm still, I think, very early in my journey. I'm still trying to figure out what works best for me. But I think the biggest tip that I can give is find a medium that works for you. If social media feels like a job, if it feels like something you have to do, then probably not going to work. So figure out whether you like writing, whether you like video, whether you like audio, whether you like making podcasts, for instance, whether you like, I don't know, just graphics, whatever that is. Find some way that you like to communicate with. In my case, I love writing and I love video. So these are the two things that I'm doing. And once you have this, then there's the second part, which is find a message that you care about and lots of people care about as well. In my case, what I care about is making the AI knowledge more democratic. And turns out there's also a lot of people that are interested in understanding AI more. If you have these two things, a goal you care about and people care about, and a medium, that could be again writing, video, just put the two things together and trying to allocate some time on it. It's, to me, the switch to make everything much easier and much better and much more relaxing was when I stopped looking at it as something that I do in my spare time and something that I actually dedicate time for. My mornings are for that, are for studying, are for teaching, and for making content and just trying to make people more aware of that. And honestly, the returns, we're going to see what kind of returns I'm going to have. Right now, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to look back and think, well, I should have used my time in a different way. I don't know yet, but I'm so happy right now that I see people that reach out to me and they tell me, Gianluca, you inspire me to do this and this.
Yeah.
I had a girl that texted me a couple of weeks ago, and she started a podcast on AI in Mexico after she saw my videos and done my free course on AI for humans. To me, that's my return on investment. There's a bunch of people in Mexico studying AI now. I love it, And so to me, that's already my return on investment. If you care about something else, then I don't know, you should try to see whether that's, you're going to get the return that you expect.
Wow, I mean, when we put all your efforts into something, and the way you see the outcomes and the results are coming in the form of testimonials of people reaching out saying the whole, deep intentions about your work, and that's a huge win, and you already won, right?
It's so nice. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
And and in the same way, like people getting into AI Academy, like for consulting people, so you are supposed to be reaching to a lot of business people out there, right? You are supposed to be reaching them. So, and you mentioned that earlier that cold emails are not actually the best way. Most often you don't use the cold emailings to reach anyone or to spread across. So for anyone out there who are actually finding people for their services, or they provide consulting and they want to get the clients to them, so what's your advice for them? Like, what would you recommend for them to actually get that?
Yeah, so I think it really depends. There's some people that I know that did amazing stuff with cold emails. I know people that got amazing results with Facebook ads.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work for me because the kind of relationship I want to have with companies, it's a very deep relationship. I mean, when I work with corporate executives, they need to tell me all the secrets of their company.
Yeah.
They need to trust me so much. And then I end up, one of the clients I work with, I talk to them literally every day for even more than an hour. I'm going to talk to them once we finish recording this podcast, And so someone that trusts you that much usually doesn't come from a cold email. It comes from some kind of connection. So if I think about actually how I got this client I'm going to talk to in a little bit, they heard me at a conference. I went to speak at this conference for free. That's something also very interesting. I've done a lot of free conferences. I just went there because I wanted to share what I knew. But then stuff always comes back if you do a good job.
Yeah.
So someone from this company was there and said, hey, I really liked your approach. Do you want to come, to our company and do a one-day workshop? I was, sure, let's go. I did one-day workshop. And then they were like, wow, it was really good. Can you come and do a 5-day workshop? Sure, let's go. And then, we made always a step more and then built an amazing relationship. So this is what worked for me. Since I want to have very deep relationships with the companies I work with, I need to have some personal connection. And that comes either from meeting in person at an event, at a conference, at a workshop, whatever that is, or from introductions. So people that trust me, that introduce me to their friends or to their colleagues. Okay?
Yeah.
If that doesn't work for you because of, I don't know, maybe you cannot go to conferences, maybe you live somewhere where maybe you're far away from conferences and stuff, by all means, try cold emails, try Facebook ads. But what I really, really, really want you to think of is don't focus just on getting value from people. Focus on giving value as well.
Cool.
To be honest, I've never seen anyone getting anything out of a cold email that doesn't give value. If your cold email actually says stuff like, hey, I've seen your company and I had this idea for you. I think you may be interested in reading this article that I found. If you want to discuss about it, let's talk next week. You gave something, you gave a tip, you gave a recommendation, you gave an article that you picked for that person. You show that you made your homework. You were really interested in that human being. Usually people kind of reach back to you, okay?
Yeah.
So I think this is the tip that I will give you if you wanna use cold emails or cold messages on LinkedIn, whatever that is. Try to give value. That's so important.
Yeah, that's totally true, because when you give value, that's what you get back. It's like a value, and that's what you need.
Yeah.
And that's totally being said. I mean, in a short and crisp way, that's beautifully said. And how about in the same way for people getting as a learners, right? We spoke about how you could get the clients, but how about there is a company or kind of an organization who is looking for students to let them experience their whole curriculum. Now AI Academy has its own unique curriculum, and you wanted to let others to experience that and learn from them.
Yeah.
So in the same way for others, so how could they actually get students or learners to learn?
Well, I mean, what I'm doing, I have a free course that is called AI for Humans. This course is 100% free, no credit card required.
Yeah.
100% free. And it's it was a lot of work to make it. I've done 2 editions already. The first one was 33 videos. It was a lot of work to make it. Then I made the second one, I made it shorter because I realized that it was too long. Just some people getting bored halfway. But anyway, the reason why I did it was, again, because I care about making AI democratic. But guess what? Out of the thousands of people that follow the course, some of them wanted more, and then they bought my professional courses. So it always comes back in some way. But what I think it's really important for you to think of is, I didn't make AI for humans because I wanted to sell all the stuff to people. I made it because I wanted to make AI more democratic.
Yeah.
So if out of 1,000 people, no one bought my course, I will be happy anyway. Okay? In the same way, you have to think about giving some value to people you want to teach. I suppose that that's because you care about people learning, right? If you teach design, it's because I guess you want people to learn design.
Yeah.
Not just because it brings you money, right?
Yeah.
So a good way is to try to make something for free. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be, honestly, I overdid it. 30 videos was too much. You can make 5 videos that explain, I don't know, the concept of UX design, what it is, and I don't know, something like this.
Yeah.
Or my case, AI for humans, right now it's 16 videos about different topics around AI. Do it and give it away for free. You can put it on YouTube and it doesn't cost any money at all.
Yeah.
You're going to help people. You're going to get to teach, which supposedly it's what makes you happy.
Yeah.
And if people want to know more, you also get to earn a living from your other professional courses. That's something that it's just a no-brainer. Just do it.
Yeah.
Offer stuff for free. Everyone is happy, right? With free stuff, with free content. The people that study and learn new stuff for free, some of them find you and then maybe buy a professional course and they find a new career. So they're happy as well. And you are happy if you manage also to, make a living out of your professional courses. It's a win-win situation here.
Exactly, the win-win, because you're actually letting your audience to experience the free content.
Yes.
If that has a lot of value, and then absolutely they'll turn up for the premium things because it has even more value. Maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good hack for all of them and a real thing for them. So how about the pandemic situation made this thing, any disturbances in the pandemic? So how did the pandemic affected AI Academy? Any stuff?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I was very lucky as well because I was able to do lots of my job remotely. I was used to fly to see my clients once every 2 weeks, more or less. But in these 2 weeks, we were also used to work remotely. So I just stopped flying and we kept working remotely. That was okay. Honestly, the pandemic gave me that push to start making online courses. Because before I always thought, I prefer teaching face to face. I'm a very people person, so I wanna see people in the face. I wanna see them. I wanna talk to them. And so I always postponed the decision of making online videos. With COVID, I had to make online videos, and then I found out that I loved that as well. I really like communicating on video as well because I can reach 100 times more people, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it was actually a good push to do the changes that I've been wanting to do for years and I never really did. So I think it impacted me positively business-wise. Again, I realized that I'm pretty lucky. But it's also important, I think, to, in Italian we say, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Yeah.
I think it's in other cultures as well, the same thing. I could have cried that I couldn't fly and teach people face to face.
Yeah.
Or I could have taken advantage of the fact that everybody was at home to make online videos.
Yeah.
So you always have a choice. You always have a choice to decide how to leave a specific situation and what to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like that. We have countless opportunities to complain about something, but we also have the countless opportunities to actually choose that specific way to actually disrupt that, right?
Yes.
And that's what you've been. I mean, that's beautifully said. And again, so possibly last week, and these are all the whole thoughts that I want to share with you and the questions that I really, really want to ask you, that I've been following you for quite a bit time and knowing about AI Academy and your work on the Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, everywhere. So these are the things that I've framed up and I really wanted to put this with you. And I got a really great response from you. about all of the behind the scenes and all of your behind the mind and behind the heart and everything. So that's beautifully aligned with everything. So that's great to have you. And again, so and I hope you remember we also released an AMA banner,
Yes.
letting others to ask. So here you have one question that I picked up among all of the others. So here we go. What and where should I start studying AI? I already completed AI for Human course and I'm completing my bachelor's in chemistry by next year. So I'm not an expert at all, but I'm eager to find out more about AI and I would love to apply it to my subject.
That's a very, very common starting point for people. They start getting into AI and then they're into the rabbit hole. They want to know more. So I think it's really important that you understand in what way you want to apply AI to your field, which is chemistry, right?
Yeah.
So one way is if you want to become a data scientist and actually be the person who writes the code behind it. Or the other idea is whether you want to be more on the chemistry side, let's say. So you know AI, you can find the opportunities to use AI in chemistry, but you're not going to be the technical person who writes the code.
Yeah.
These are two different career paths, okay? If you want to go for the first one, there's a ton of courses online that can teach you what is artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
A good one that is pretty famous is from a professor called Andrew Ng on Coursera. It's really, it's free also, I think. It was free a few years ago. I think it's still free. And that's a great starting point. You also know chemistry, so you know lots of mathematics, statistics, so it's going to be quite easy for you. You just need to get into the coding part. And then do as I did. Try to get experience as soon as possible. Ideally, that will mean finding a job as an intern, maybe in some company that does data science. If you cannot find that, pretend you have one and just build projects,
yeah.
okay? Like I did, yeah. And that's the first part. So if you want to actually code. If you don't want to code, so that's a little bit more tricky because the jobs for people that are non-technical but work with AI are kind of on the rise right now. They're basically being defined as we speak. So I know a few people that work as AI evangelists, which are people that just go in a company and they try to find opportunities for AI. They don't write the software. They find the opportunities and then data scientists build the software, okay? This is one kind of job that already exists. There's people that work as AI product managers, AI project managers, etc., etc., etc. These jobs are being defined right now. And if you want to follow these jobs, it's a little bit tricky right now because there are not a lot of courses for these kind of people. That's why I made mine. That's why I made Applied AI for Professionals. That's why I made Design Build AI projects. And that's why, also I wrote Zero to AI, which is a book that could help you with this. So that's one thing, studying. I recommend my courses because, the reason why I made them is because there were not many good courses around. But the other thing that I want to recommend you to do is to try to stay up to date with what's happening. Yeah. Which means subscribe to newsletters. You can subscribe to mine. You can subscribe to other newsletters. There's tons. But try to see how the technology is changing because tomorrow there may be a new technology that completely changes the way that you do chemistry. Yeah. Okay? So again, to sum up really quickly. First thing, understand if you want to code or if you want to be focused on the chemistry side. And based on these two, try to get the education that you need, then gain exposure to what's happening in the industry because this stuff changes literally every 2 months. Yeah. So you need to be constantly trying to get updated, which to be honest, it's really fun because it's so dynamic, right?
Yeah. And again, the same common question comes in here when you speak about keeping yourself updated. And what are the best ways that you could keep? One approach is by signing up to newsletters, but how about others? Like, what do you recommend?
Yeah, for me, it's pretty easy because I'm in the field, right? I follow people on Instagram that do that. I follow people on LinkedIn. I follow people on Facebook, etc., etc. And I work with people that do it. So for me, it's kind of easy. If you are not in this field, then I think newsletters are a great way to do that because it just kind of gets into your inbox. Yeah. And then try to find people that are in this field and follow them or talk to them if you can. I have people that I have a relationship with where we just talk once every 2 months and I ask them, hey, what's happening in marketing? Oh my God, there's this new thing. And they're like, what's happening in AI? Oh my God, there's this new thing. So also, don't underestimate the importance of building relationships with people that maybe can give you an exposure to these new fields.
Absolutely. I mean, that's so much of value pack from AI Academy and everything. So a lot of values about personal growth, multitasking, single tasking, and consulting, business and learnings, and communities, and helping and the karma. Moreover, the career cards, a huge value pack. We spoke about a lot of stuff, and moreover about the AI Academy, AI for Humans, about zero to AI and the democratic things. A lot of things that you've been sharing across, and it's been over a long time. We've been speaking about this, and thank you so much, Gianluca. It's an amazing conversation with you, and it's a huge value for all the listeners out there. And I highly recommend checking out the episode notes below to find the Zero to AI book and AI for Humans URLs everywhere. You can easily grab a copy, and you can easily freely get enrolled and learn a lot from Gianluca. So thank you so much, Gianluca. It's been an amazing conversation with you.
Thank you, Teja. It was amazing.